The Muslim conquest of Persia, also known as the Arab conquest of Iran, led to the end of the Sasanian Empire in 651 and the eventual decline of the Zoroastrian religion in Iran. The rise of Muslims coincided with a significant political, social, economic and military weakness in Persia. Once a major world power, the Sasanian Empire had exhausted its human and material resources after decades of warfare against the Byzantine Empire. The internal political situation had deteriorated, with the king Khosrau II being executed and 10 new claimants taking the throne within just 4 years. The last one, Yazdijid III, who had to face the Muslim invasion, was 8 years old. Arab Muslims first attacked the Sassanid territory in 633, when General Khalid ibn Walid invaded Mesopotamia, which was the political and economic center of the Sassanid state. Following the transfer of Khalid to the Byzantine front in the Levant, the Muslims eventually lost their holdings to Sasanian counterattacks. The second invasion began in 636 under Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, when a key victory at the Battle of Qadisiyah led to the permanent end of Sasanian control west of Iran. The Zagros Mountains then became a natural barrier and border between the Rashidun Caliphate and the Sassanid Empire. Due to continuous raids by Persians into the area, Caliph Umar ordered a full invasion of the Sasanian Empire in 642, which led to the complete conquest of the Sasanians around 651. Directing from Medina, more than 1,000 miles from the battlefields of Iran, Caliph Umar's quick conquest of Iran in a series of well-coordinated, multi-pronged attacks became his greatest triumph, contributing to his reputation as a great military and political strategist. Iranian historians have sought to defend the forebears by using Arab sources to illustrate that, contrary to the claims of some historians, Iranians, in fact, fought long and hard against the invading Arabs. By 651, most of the urban centers in Iranian lands, with the notable exception of the Caspian provinces and Transoxiana, had come under the domination of the Arab armies. Many localities in Iran staged a defense against the invaders, but in the end none was able to repulse the invasion. Even after the Arabs had subdued the country, many cities rose in rebellion, killing the Arab governor or attacking their garrisons. But reinforcements from the caliphs succeeded in putting down all these rebellions and imposing the rule of Islam. The violent subjugation of Bukhara after many uprisings is a case in point. Conversion to Islam was, however, only gradual. In the process, many acts of violence took place. Zoroastrian scriptures were burnt and many priests executed. Once conquered politically, the Persians began to reassert themselves by maintaining Persian language and culture, historiography and recent scholarship. When Western academics first investigated the Muslim conquest of Persia, they only had to rely on the accounts of the Armenian Christian bishop Sabios, and accounts in Arabic that were written some time after the events they describe. The most significant work was probably that of Arthur Christensen, and his L'Iran sous les Sassanides, published in Copenhagen and Paris in 1944. However, recent scholarship, both Iranian and Western, has begun to question the traditional narrative. Parvaneh Pourcheriata, in her Decline and Fall of the Sasanian Empire, the Sasanian Parthian Confederacy and the Arab Conquest of Iran, published in 2008, provides both a detailed overview of the problematic nature of trying to establish exactly what happened, and a great deal of original research that questions fundamental facts of the traditional narrative, including the timeline and specific dates. Pourcheriati's central thesis is that, contrary to what was commonly assumed, the Sasanian Empire was highly decentralized, and was in fact a confederation with the Parthians, who themselves retained a high level of independence. Despite their recent victories over the Byzantine Empire, the Parthians unexpectedly withdrew from the confederation, and the Sasanians were thus ill-prepared and ill-equipped to mount an effective and cohesive defense against the Muslim armies. Moreover, the powerful northern and eastern Parthian families, the Kushtai Khurasan and Kushtai Ardabad-Agan, withdrew to their respective strongholds and made peace with the Arabs, refusing to fight alongside the Sasanians. Another important theme of Pushariates' study is a re-evaluation of the traditional timeline. Pushariata argues that the Arab conquest of Mesopotamia took place, not, as has been conventionally believed, in the years 632 to 634, after the accession of the last Sasanian king Yazdja III to power, but in the period from 628 to 632. An important consequence of this change in timeline means that the Arab conquest started precisely when the Sasanians and Parthians were engaged in internecine warfare over succession to the Sasanian throne. Sassanid Empire before the conquest. Since the 1st century BC, the border between the Roman and Parthian empires had been the Euphrates River. The border was constantly contested. Most battles, and thus most fortifications, were concentrated in the hilly regions of the north, as the vast Arabian or Syrian desert separated the rival empires in the south. The only dangers expected from the south were occasional raids by nomadic Arab tribesmen. Both empires therefore allied themselves with small, semi-independent Arab principalities, which served as buffer states and protected Byzantium and Persia from Bedouin attacks. The Byzantine clients were the Ghassanids, the Persian clients were the Lakhmids. The Ghassanids and Lakhmids feuded constantly, which kept them occupied, but that did not greatly affect the Byzantines or the Persians. In the 6th and 7th centuries, various factors destroyed the balance of power that had held for so many centuries. Revolt of the Arab client states. The Byzantine clients, the Arab Ghassanids, converted to the monophysite form of Christianity, which was regarded as heretical by the established Byzantine Orthodox Church. The Byzantines attempted to suppress the heresy, alienating the Ghassanids and sparking rebellions on their desert frontiers. The Lakhmids also revolted against the Persian king Khusrau II. After Khusrau's assassination, the Persian Empire fractured and the Lakhmids were effectively semi-independent. It is now widely believed that the annexation of the Lakhmid kingdom was one of the main factors behind the fall of Sassanid dynasty to the Muslim Arabs and the Islamic conquest of Persia, as the Lakhmids agreed to act as spies for the Muslims after being defeated in the Battle of Hira by Khalid ibn al-Walid. Byzantine Sassanid War. The Persian ruler Khosrau II defeated a dangerous rebellion within his own empire, the Bahram Chobans Rebellion. He afterward turned his energies towards his traditional Byzantine enemies, leading to the Byzantine Sassanid War of 602 to 628. For a few years, he succeeded gloriously. From 612 to 622, he extended the Persian borders almost to the same extent that they were under the Achaemenid dynasty, capturing western states as far as Egypt, Palestine, and more. The Byzantines regrouped and pushed back in 622 under Heraclius. Khosrau was defeated at the Battle of Nineveh in 627, and the Byzantines recaptured all of Syria and penetrated far into the Persian provinces of Mesopotamia. In 629, Khosrau's general Shah-Baraz agreed to peace, and the border between the two empires was once again the same as it was in 602. Execution of Khosrau II. Khosrau II was executed in 628, and as a result, there were numerous claimants to the throne. From 628 to 632 there were 10 kings and queens of Persia. The last, Yazdja III, was a grandson of Khosrau II and was said to be a mere child aged 8 years. During Prophet Muhammad's life after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah in 628, Islamic tradition holds that Prophet Muhammad sent many letters to the princes, kings, and chiefs of the various tribes and kingdoms of the time, inviting them to convert to Islam. These letters were carried by ambassadors to Persia, Byzantium, Ethiopia, Egypt, Yemen, and Hira on the same day. This assertion has been brought under scrutiny by some modern historians of Islam, notably Grimmer and Katana. Particularly in dispute is the assertion that Khosrau II received a letter from Prophet Muhammad, as the Sassanid court ceremony was notoriously intricate, and it is unlikely that a letter from what at the time was a minor regional power would have reached the hands of the Shahanshah. With regards to Persia, Muslim histories further recount that at the beginning of the 7th year of migration, Prophet Muhammad appointed one of his officers, Abdullah Huzaifar Salman Arashi, to carry his letter to Khosrau II inviting him to convert, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, from Muhammad, the Messenger of Allah, to the great Kisra of Iran, peace be upon him, who seeks truth and expresses belief in Allah and in his Prophet and testifies that there is no God but Allah and that he has no partner, and who believes that Prophet Muhammad is his servant and prophet. Under the command of Allah, I invite you to him. He has sent me for the guidance of all people so that I may warn them all of his wrath and may present the unbelievers with an ultimatum. Embrace Islam so that you may remain safe. And if you refuse to accept Islam, you will be responsible for the sins of the Magi. There are differing accounts of the reaction of Khosrau II. Nearly all assert that he destroyed the letter in anger. The variations concentrate on the extent and detail of his response. Rise of the Caliphate. Prophet Muhammad died in June 632, and Abu Bakr took the title of Caliph and political successor at Medina. Soon after Abu Bakr's succession, several Arab tribes revolted in the Ridda Wars. The Ridda Wars preoccupied the Caliphate until March 633, and ended with the entirety of the Arab Peninsula under the authority of the Caliph at Medina. Whether Abu Bakr intended a full-out imperial conquest or not is hard to say. He did, however, set in motion a historical trajectory that in just a few short decades would lead to one of the largest empires in history, beginning with a confrontation with the Sassanid Empire under the general Khalid ibn al-Walid. First invasion of Mesopotamia. After the Ridda Wars, a tribal chief of northeastern Arabia, al-Muthanna ibn Haritha, raided the Persian towns in Mesopotamia. Abu Bakr was strong enough to attack the Persian Empire in the northeast and the Byzantine Empire in the northwest. There were three purposes for this conquest. 1. Along the borders between Arabia and these two great empires were numerous Arab tribes leading a nomadic life and forming a buffer-like state between the Persians and Romans. Abu Bakr hoped that these tribes might accept Islam and help their brethren in spreading it. 2. The Persian and Roman populations suffered with very high taxation laws. Abu Bakr believed that they might be persuaded to help the Muslims, who agreed to release them from the excessive tributes. 3. Two gigantic empires surrounded Arabia, and it was unsafe to remain passive with these two powers on its borders. Abu Bakr hoped that by attacking Iraq and Syria he might remove the danger from the borders of the Islamic State. With the success of the raids, a considerable amount of booty was collected. Al-Muthanna ibn Haritha went to Medina to inform Caliph Abu Bakr about his success and was appointed commander of his people, after which he began to raid deeper into Mesopotamia. Using the mobility of his light cavalry he could easily raid any town near the desert and disappear again into the desert, into which the Sassanid army was unable to chase them. Al-Muthanna's acts made Abu Bakr think about the expansion of the Rashidun Empire. To be certain of victory, Abu Bakr made two decisions concerning the attack on Persia. First, the invading army would consist entirely of volunteers, and second, to put in command of the army his best general, Khalid ibn al-Walid. After defeating the self-proclaimed prophet Musaylima in the Battle of Yamama, Khalid was still at Al-Yamamah when Abu Bakr sent him orders to invade the Sassanid Empire, making Al-Hira the objective of Khalid. Abu Bakr sent reinforcements and ordered the tribal chiefs of northeastern Arabia, Al-Muthanna ibn Haritha, Mazhar bin Adi, Harmala and Salma to operate under the command of Khalid along with their men. Around the third week of March 633, Khalid set out from Al-Yamamah with an army of 10,000. The tribal chiefs, with 2,000 warriors each, joined Khalid, so Khalid entered the Persian Empire with 18,000 troops. After entering Mesopotamia with his army of 18,000, Khalid won decisive victories in 4 consecutive battles. The Battle of Chains, fought in April 633, the Battle of River, fought in the third week of April 633 AD, the Battle of Walajar, fought in May 633, and the Battle of Ules, fought in the mid of May 633 AD. The Persian court, already disturbed by internal problems, was thrown into chaos. In the last week of May 633, the important city of Hira fell to the Muslims after their victory in the siege of Hira. After resting his armies, in June 633 Khalid laid siege to the city of Al-Anbar, which resisted and eventually surrendered in July 633 after a siege lasting a few weeks. Khalid then moved towards the south, and conquered the city of Ain-ul-Tamr after the Battle of Ain-ul-Tamr in the last week of July 633. At this point, most of what is now Iraq was under Islamic control. Khalid got a call of help from northern Arabia at Dawmat el-Jandal, where another Muslim Arab general, Ayaz bin Ghanem, was trapped among the rebel tribes. Khalid went to Dawmat el-Jandal and defeated the rebels in the Battle of Dawmat el-Jandal in the last week of August 633. Returning from Arabia, he got news of the assembling of a large Persian army. He decided to defeat them all separately to avoid the risk of being defeated by a large unified Persian army. 4 divisions of Persian and Christian Arab auxiliaries were present at Hanafi's, Zumil, Sani and Musayyar. Khalid devised a brilliant plan to destroy the Persian forces. He divided his army in 3 units, and attacked the Persian forces in well-coordinated attacks from 3 different sides at night, starting from the Battle of Musayyar, then the Battle of Sani, and finally the Battle of Zumail during November 633. These devastating defeats ended Persian control over Mesopotamia, and left the Persian capital Ctesiphon unguarded and vulnerable to Muslim attack. Before attacking the Persian capital, Khalid decided to eliminate all Persian forces in the south and west. He accordingly marched against the border city of Firaz, where he defeated the combined forces of the Sassanid Persians, the Byzantine Romans and Christian Arabs in the Battle of Firaz in December 633. This was the last battle in his conquest of Mesopotamia. While Khalid was on his way to attack Qadisiyah, he received a letter from Caliph Abu Bakr and was sent to the Roman front in Syria to assume the command of the Muslim armies to conquer Roman Syria. Second invasion of Mesopotamia. According to the will of Abu Bakr, Umar was to continue the conquest of Syria and Mesopotamia. On the northeastern borders of the empire, in Mesopotamia, the situation was deteriorating day by day. During Abu Bakr, Khalid ibn al-Walid had been sent to the Syrian front to command the Islamic armies there. As soon as Khalid had left Mesopotamia with half his army of 9,000 soldiers, the Persians decided to take back their lost territory. The Muslim army was forced to leave the conquered areas and concentrate on the border areas. Umar immediately sent reinforcements to aid Muthanna ibn Haritha in Mesopotamia under the command of Abu Ubayd al-Thaqafi. The Persian forces defeated Abu Ubayd in the Battle of Bridge. However, later Persian forces were defeated by Muthanna bin Haritha in the Battle of Buwaib. In 635 Yazd III sought alliance with Emperor Heraclius of the Eastern Roman Empire. Heraclius married his daughter to Yazd III, an old Roman tradition to show alliance. While Heraclius prepared for a major offense in the Levant, Yazd, meanwhile, ordered the concentration of massive armies to push back the Muslims from Mesopotamia for good. The goal was well-coordinated attacks by both emperors, Heraclius in the Levant and Yazd in Mesopotamia, to annihilate the power of their common enemy, Caliph Umar. Battle of Qadisiyah. Umar ordered his army to retreat to the bordering areas of Mesopotamia near the Arabian Desert and began raising armies for another campaign into Mesopotamia. The Arab armies were concentrated near Medina, and owing to the critical situation Umar wished to command the army in person. The idea was opposed by the members of Majlis al-Shura at Medina, who claimed that the two-front war required Umar's presence in Medina. Umar appointed Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas as commander for the campaign in Mesopotamia. Sa'd left Medina with his army in May 636 and arrived at Qadisiyah in June, while Heraclius launched his offensive in May 636. Yazd was unable to muster his armies in time to provide the Byzantines with Persian support. Umar, allegedly aware of this alliance, capitalized on this failure. Not wanting to risk a battle with two great powers simultaneously, he quickly moved to reinforce the Muslim army at Yarmouk to engage and defeat the Byzantines. Meanwhile, Umar ordered Sa'd to enter into peace negotiations with Yazd III and invite him to Islam to prevent Persian forces from taking the field. Heraclius instructed his general Vahan not to engage in battle with the Muslims before receiving explicit orders. However, fearing more Arab reinforcements, Vahan attacked the Muslim army in the Battle of Yarmouk in August 636. Heraclius's imperial army was routed. With the Byzantine threat ended, the Sassanid Empire was still a formidable power with vast manpower reserves, and the Arabs soon found themselves confronting a huge Persian army with troops drawn from every corner of the empire and commanded by its foremost generals. Among the troops were fearsome war elephants that the Persian commander brought with him for the sole purpose of vanquishing the Muslims. Within 3 months, Sa'd defeated the Persian army in the Battle of al-Qadisiyah, effectively ending Sassanid rule west of Persia proper. This victory is largely regarded as a decisive turning point in Islam's growth. With the bulk of Persian forces defeated, Sa'd later conquered Babylon, Kuzi, Barasha and Madain. Ctesiphon, the imperial capital of the Sassanid Empire, fell in March 637 after a siege of 3 months.